cross-stitching runner, and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning subscribers, and if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross-stitch with a little bit of life stuff thrown in. And this episode is very different to what I normally have been doing in the last few months, because I've had so many plans of what I've wanted to do with how I'm going to do this episode, and I think the world feels like it's conspiring against me. Where I think just technical challenges. That's probably being the best way to put it. So I've been wanting to try and film like a Flosstube stitch with me kind of episode where it would be like a stitch with me in conjunct with a a Flosstube 2.0 kind of situation where we're stitching but thinking about just some slightly different perspectives of cross stitch. So I'm going to see how I go with doing something like that now with you. And it is going to be a little bit of a stitch with me, but rather than having like an over the head camera and you're seeing me actually stitching while we're chatting, I will be sort of stitching a little bit off camera, but hopefully having a bit of a chat with you as well. So the project that I'm working on at the moment is the mini mushrooms. It's available for physical purchase, the chart looking a bit like that, or you can do a digital download. It's available on my hot cross stitching website and Etsy store. So the reason why I'm working on the mini mushrooms is part of the AFL stitching challenge that I'm doing, and one of the teams I've connected to this project for this round is Essendon, perhaps. I've got notes with me. Hawthorn, yeah, Hawthorn surprisingly won. They've had a bit of a kind of season, so I actually wasn't expecting them to win, but I'm glad they did. So this is where I need to get 98 stitches done. I have done a small amount of stitches already as part of me trying to do a stitch with me, and it's kind of gone okay. It's been a while since I've worked on this project, so I think I've accidentally marked off some stitches that I haven't stitched, and then I've stitched some but not marked it off. All of that fun stuff. So I guess with the stitching challenge, we're up to round 13. Today is Monday the 12th of June, and it's a public holiday here in Australia. For as long as the Queen has been the Queen of England, today was known as the Queen's birthday. In many states now it's the Sovereign's birthday, and some states or territories in Australia are calling it the King's birthday. So it's good that we still have this day as a public holiday. I'm feeling really tired. It's being a Monday, so we have Michael and I. We've travelled up from the south coast. We're back in Wollongong. We were down at Malure Bay from really early Wednesday morning through to just before lunchtime today, and it was really nice having that break away. And I'm just looking at the chart, so I'm getting myself all sorted for what stitching I need to do. I have done a lot of stitching. Hopefully when I get back into a bit more of a routine, I will be able to share with you a bit more what I've actually stitched. So it'll make a bit more sense. But with this mini mushrooms project, I've been stitching on this intermittently for quite a few years now, and I initially had the intention of getting it done, of course, within 12 months in preparation for a a show, a show. What can I say? The Canberra Royal Show, not like a TV show or anything like that. So I guess it's almost like your state fair to some extent. Each state in Australia and almost every territory has a really big show. For Canberra, it spreads across 3 to 4 days. Sydney has the Easter show that goes for at least a week, perhaps longer. I do know that Brisbane does a similar thing. They go for about a week or a few days. I'm not sure about the rest of the states in terms of what special big shows they do. So my aim is still for mini mushrooms to actually get stitched, get framed, and to enter it in. The aim of it would be to, I guess, what's the wording? Just confirm how awesome my stitching is, and just to show that I'm on the right track as well with converting the photos that I'm taking into cross stitch patterns, and that they can look equally amazing. So the interesting thing also would be to perhaps enter some of my photos is like A3 size or A4 size, probably A4 size photos into similar shows, that kind of thing, just to get some form of credentials behind my name. But hey, that's just a side thing, I guess. Wait and see. So, what I guess to help put in perspective, the area that I'm stitching on, I am working on this area here. The annoying thing is that there is a bit of confetti stitching with it, and this is where, as part of me feeling a bit tired, I am not sure how much I've actually stitched compared with what I've marked off, and my brain is just not working very well. So I hope that all goes well, and it'll be fine. So with the stitch with me, in terms of my initial plan, thoughts, and all the rest, are connected to the stories that we tell, especially about cross stitch and the stories that we tell. I guess a little bit the stories we tell ourselves, but the stories that we tell our non-stitching friends, family, and acquaintances when we're sharing with them the projects that we're working on, where I have started, I guess I've wandered off and on for a while. And I've even written a few blog posts as well about this sort of thing, where the question is about, well, what stories are we telling, but how is that impacting the value we then place or others then place on the projects that we're working on. So if, for example, a stranger who knew nothing about cross stitch was to look at any of the projects that we've worked on, whether they be these beautiful little small ornament kind of things right through to perhaps the big full coverage projects or anything in between, they may potentially look at it and go, okay, yep, that's nice, it's cool, it's great. Sometimes they'll be like, oh my God, that picture is just beautiful. Can I please buy it? But when they then hear the price tag perhaps that we put on it, especially if we use the current baseline wages, our hourly rates that are in the country I live in. For here in Australia, I'm a bit out of touch with it to know what the base wage may be. Let's say, for example, the base wage or base hourly rate maybe $50 an hour, for example. And if we then calculate how many hours we've put into a full coverage project, we're talking about $20,000 in some situations. And some people will be like, well, for that amount of money, I can buy myself a car for that. Or in other cases, they'll be like, well, that for me is a deposit on a house, or it's whatever other thing that they hold to be the holy grail of what they want. Um, so this is where it's got me thinking, well, yes, money is hugely important for everyone to be able to do what they need to do. So money enables us to buy the things we need, like food, clothing, shelter, pay for bills, everything in between, be educated. Um, that said, since we've had like the pandemic and that kind of fun stuff, we've come to value our headspace a lot more. We've come to value taking care of ourselves a lot more. We've come to value connecting with people and chatting with them and reconnecting with nature and getting out and experiencing the world and having fun. So, this is where it comes back to the stories that we tell about cross stitch, and it may be more about why we do cross stitch and why we want to put so much time and effort and love into these projects, rather than the I'm just doing this for the sake of doing this. Um, so that's sort of where my headspace is going. So, what do you think? What sort of value do we need to put on our cross stitch? What stories are we needing to tell about our cross stitch and why we are doing it? I'm just going to pause for a moment so I can get my needle threaded up and such. But yeah, I'm just curious. What stories are you telling about your artwork, about your cross stitch? Okay, so I'm just threading up some DMC, the DMC number 3787. I'm being a little bit fumble fingers at the moment with this, but I know, for example, that with the stories that I'm telling about cross stitch, historically my stories have been, oh yeah, this is going to take me X amount of time to get done. Um, or I'll be saying something like, it's going to, uh, I'll be more focused on time really rather than any other aspect of cross stitch. So this is where I'm definitely thinking that, especially based on the responses I get from people when I tell them how long it'll take me to get a project done. And especially when people say, oh, yeah, I could never do cross stitch. It's amazing that you've got just so much patience and all the rest. And I'm starting to rephrase all of this and say to people, well, part of how I can be so patient with people, or how I can be patient with whatever the situation, is because I do this cross stitch, is because I'm taking this particular time for myself to work on these projects. And this is where I need to start saying to people that doing cross stitch, it enables me to calm my mind. It keeps my hands busy and it forces me to focus on one thing at a time. And if people start saying, "Oh, but I don't have time to do cross stitch," and I totally understand that in many cases people may feel that they don't have the time because they are caregivers, they are parents, they have many other demands on their time, and that's totally cool. That's totally their choice. It's no worries, and I also appreciate that cross stitch isn't for everyone. And so this is where I would just be trying to say to people, okay, look, I recognize cross stitch isn't for everyone, but I'd be asking people, what do they do in their downtime? What do they like to do in their spare time that they choose to do to take care of themselves? Do they go out running around playing a sport? How do they unwind? Do they sit down and read a book, or do they listen to some music, or are they planning out a meal and buying ingredients, and are they cooking a banquet for people because they enjoy the act of cooking and just focusing on that process of cooking? Are they baking, for example, because with baking it needs to be precise because things can go wrong very quickly if you mismeasure some key ingredients. Um, it's those sorts of things. And if people are saying, oh, well, my hobby is sitting on the couch scrolling through my phone while I've got Netflix or Hulu or whatever playing in the background, then I'd be saying, okay, well, what would you do if you didn't play on your phone? Would you take up crocheting? Would you try knitting? Would you do scrapbooking? Would you write? Would you play music? What would you do that would enable you to feel like you've achieved something? Um, and maybe that phrasing isn't quite the right phrasing because we don't always necessarily have to feel like we're achieving something all the time, every day, because that can sometimes get wearing, it can get tiring. So it could be a case of asking people, um, do they want to learn something? Do they want to learn a new language? Do they want to learn a new skill? Like, do they want to do candle making, or do they want to do to learn about like the mechanics of an engine and know how to change the oil on their vehicle or motorbike, whatever it is? Um, or is it do they want to change their career path? Because COVID and the pandemic and everything, that's enabled us all to, I guess, change the way we think about how we want to work as well, and change what makes us happy. That is very much a thing that the pandemic has taught many of us. So again, if you are sitting here playing on your phone while you're listening to me ramble on, ask these questions. What could you be doing instead of playing on your phone? I'm just going to pause for a moment. I need to mark off some stuff on the chart. But if what could you be doing instead of playing on your phone if you are just scrolling through social media, for example? Okay, so I know I've been guilty of playing on my phone way too much. The game that I'm playing on my phone at the moment is a Scrabble based game. The reason why I'm choosing to play this particular game is to keep my mind active. I have this fear. It's a low key fear. It's a concern, really, rather than a fear. A concern that yeah, just what my life will be like when I'm older. And I have heard over the years that doing things like crossword puzzles or Sudoku or similar kinds of games and such that challenge your brain and keep those neurons firing and such, that it, for some people, can delay or prevent certain illnesses that may occur in older life. So I'm using the words that it may this or can that, rather than being definitive, saying yes, this will stop this will stop that, because I think scientists are still very much learning about these sorts of things. But I digress. I have also been guilty of scrolling through Pinterest, and through Facebook a fair bit as well, and it's not always been great for my mental health on that one. And this is one of the other stories that I want to try and tell people about why I do cross stitch. That aside from it getting me to focus on just the task in front of me and trying to keep my hands busy, that cross stitch has helped me just to calm down, because there are still times when I get way too stuck in my head. And the challenge with me getting stuck in my head is that I don't vocalize very well what I might be worried about, what I might be stressing about. Alternatively, I just might be mulling over an idea of, say, the next Flosstube episode, or the next stage that I want to take my side hustle in, or anything along those lines. So I'll just be stuck in my head. And it by doing cross stitch, it sort of helps me to problem solve in some ways. And when I was trying to plan for this particular Flosstube episode, I was, I guess, writing out a bit about this particular section. I was thinking about some of the marketing companies, and I think Google came to my mind a little bit, where they're years ago may have shown like marketing people where there'd be billiard tables, ping pong tables, and similar games and such set up, where people would then be able to go and play pool or table tennis or something along those lines, just to have a break from just this intense thinking that they're needing to do to try and develop a marketing campaign for magnets or whatever the product may be. And by just changing the focus a little bit, it can actually help to solve that problem. Another example is, if anyone here has watched Big Bang Theory, for example, there, by memory, was an episode where Sheldon was trying to solve some complex problem, and he was getting really frustrated about it because he couldn't figure out how to solve a particular equation or problem. So people said to him, okay, why don't you just take a break? Why don't you do some menial tasks or whatever? And so he started annoying all of his friends, all the people he knew, where he would start bussing tables, or he would start hanging out with his colleagues and such, because he believed that all of those tasks were normally beneath him. But by doing some of these tasks, it would potentially help his brain come up with the answer that he needed. And this is where cross stitch for me has helped a lot. And I've even used it as a way of trying to calm myself before I've had to go to work. In years gone by, I've had some uncomfortable working situations, some of which I've caused a little bit myself, and other times it's been way out of my control. And I've gone through stages of feeling really anxious and uncomfortable about going to work. I felt really stressed, and at times I didn't want to go to work. And at times I was borderline of wanting to quit my job. But I didn't want to quit the job because I had no other job to go to, and I needed money to come in. And so by sitting down and doing cross stitch, it at least temporarily got me to calm down, just to focus on something that I enjoy, that I could control, that would enable me just to calm my breathing down. And it's a bit like the meditative state that that you can go in if you really are just enjoying the bubble that you're in at the time. And that's what I'm wanting to try and tell people about cross stitch and why I do the cross stitch now. And this is where I'm hoping that by telling people these stories about cross stitch and why I do it, and also showing them that the projects that are out there don't just have to be these big full coverage ones, that they can be the fun small ones. And the fun small ones, they don't have to be um, the Quakers or the samplers or anything like that. They don't have to be all flowery and alphabets and homes and all the rest. They can be about the TV shows that you might like watching. They could be based on the movies or music or fantasy or and myths and legends and those sorts of things. They can even be the words and all the rest as well. So there could even be some quotes that you like from a movie, or it might be a saying that you use every day, or a saying that your family says, or it could be anything in between. That's the beauty of cross stitch, and that's where I'm really keen to try and show people that um, it can be a lot of fun. That as you get comfortable with cross stitch, that you can start seeing that there's heaps of different fabrics to choose from. That there's all these different colours to choose from for your threads. That they don't have to just be the DMC brand or Anchor or anything like that. It can be those beautiful silks and specialty threads that are available. So they can be like Week Style Works, they can be Cottage Garden threads, they can be whatever other brands that I'm forgetting right now. And that's what I'm trying to hopefully share with people, and that it can be for any age where cross stitch is cool. That's what I'm hoping to try and share with people, and that it's a kind of project that you can take with you almost anywhere. Um, and that the project can be as big and detailed as you want it to be, or as small and simple as you want it as well. And that if there isn't anything out there in the market that tickles your fancy, then you can design your own as well and stitch those. I've seen people on Flosstube who have kids who are really interested in drawing, design, that kind of thing, and they'll say to their mum or say to their dad, say to their caregiver, "Mum, can you, or dad, whoever, can you convert this into a chart for me?" Or they'll be given pencils and paper or whatever, and they'll then draw whatever it is that they want, and then they'll start stitching it. And that I think is the beauty of cross stitch, the creativity that we have in it. So thank you for bearing with me. I know that this wasn't a normal kind of cross stitch catch up or anything like that. I do hope that in a few weeks' time that all will be okay in terms of it being a normal episode. It will probably be on a Monday rather than a Sunday Australian time, because in roughly 2 to 3 weeks' time, I'm going to be travelling up to Queensland, and I'm going to be tired from travel and such. So I hope all goes well, and until next time, I shall catch you all later.